All right, we're rolling.
Okay.
And
So today,
From the Fernando and Freddy Show.
Why isn't my name first?
hey guys, welcome to another episode of Reddit on Reddit.
on Reddit,
I'm Fernando.
and I'm Freddy.
All right, so today we're going to be talking to you guys a little bit about conspiracy theories and some of that fun stuff. So to start, I wanted to start out with another pandemic. So bear with me, you guys. Okay, so 1916 and 1955 was the peak of the polio pandemic. Polio is a disease that mainly affects children under the age of 5, causes paralysis in 1 out of every 200 cases. In 5 to 10% of those cases of paralysis, the victim dies. And that's due to like breathing muscles being affected. So the virus spreads through contaminated food or water or through an infected person. Scary thing about this, though, is even children who fully recover can still develop new muscle pain, weakness, paralysis, anywhere from 15 to 40 years down the line. So, though this was first
40
discovered in Vermont, the first large outbreak of polio was in New York City, and this was in 1916, had 9,000 cases and 2,343 deaths. Now, this is mainly in children, under the age of 5. So, yes, these cases are high, but they're all children. Mostly children, I'm sorry, not all children, but mostly. All right, so in the mid 1900s, this disease was considered the thing that Americans feared the most. Okay, and even during the time of polio, they practiced some of the same tactics that we're using now, social distancing. So their swimming pools were closed, and theaters were even advising customers not to sit too close to each other in fear of spreading the virus. And it crippled 35,000 children per year. So think like the cases that are getting hit, these kids necessarily aren't dying, but they're losing muscle function, whether it being their legs, their arms, their face. But the ones that are dying are the ones that are losing the muscle function in their lungs, right, where they can't breathe. So parents were afraid to let their kids out to play, especially during the summer months, and this was known as polio season. So during the peak of this disease, a vaccine was created, and there were 2 versions with 2 different methods. So Salk created an orally administered version, and he used formaldehyde to deactivate the virus. Sabin created an injection using an attenuated version of the virus. So it's the virus that's pretty much almost killed. These vaccines were first given in 1955, and then in April of 1955, 200,000 children in Western and Midwestern U.S. states were given Salk's oral vaccination, where the virus was not correctly deactivated. And within days, they realized they had caused 40,000 new cases of polio, leaving 200 children with varying degrees of paralysis and 10 dead. This was coined the Cutter incident. Cutter was the California-based family-operated pharmaceutical company which produced these faulty vaccinations. Salk's method of production has since been done away with after a modified version had come out in the 80s and 90s, giving about 8 to 10 cases of polio. So Sabin's version essentially won, even though it was said to be less safe. So the virus took a plunge in 1988 from approximately 350,000 cases, and it went down to 22 cases in 2017. And no longer present in the United States, but it's still seen in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Nigeria. So this disease that killed thousands has now pretty much been 99% eradicated. All right, so every vaccine has had some sort of a side effect. And due to many lawsuits, vaccines were the first medical advancement, which almost were completely wiped out. So many companies were just too afraid to continue making the vaccines or even start business. So it left a very few select companies with this task. In the 90s, they came up with an act which governed litigation for the vaccine companies. And because of the vast side effects and the different conspiracy theories, there have been a lot of parents who are against vaccinations, and they're called anti-vaxxers. They refuse to vaccinate their children, and they blame from the side effects and other conditions, which sometimes aren't even caused by the vaccination. Okay, so recently these anti-vaxxers and their campaigns have gained a lot of momentum, and they feed into a lot of these conspiracy theories. So, have you heard Bill Gates had gone on Reddit on the AMA forum? They asked me anything, and he was with 2 doctors, and a lot of these new conspiracy theories are kind of stemming from this. Have you heard
Wait,
anything about it?
he really went on Reddit and did the
Well,
Ask
yeah.
Me Anything?
About a
Oh,
month
I didn't
ago,
know
I
that.
believe I can't remember the exact date. It was like the first 2 weeks of March. I want to say like March 17th or March 12th. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, so Bill Gates, in case you didn't know, he actually donated a lot of money to the relief funds and to like the research and development and trying to come up with a vaccine. And but just in general, he donated $100 million to coronavirus, right? Um,
Okay.
so Bill Gates had also had the idea, and this is just in the past couple of years, that he wanted to come up with an invisible ink and put it into a tattoo form. So, for these different pandemics and for different viruses and, different things like that, people that have vaccinations. So, say for example, they do come up now with a coronavirus vaccination. He wants people to be tattooed with this invisible ink as a vaccination record, or whether it being a vaccination record, or if you have antibodies to um, the virus. So that way you have your proof, you have your digital records. Now, the invisible ink is only read by a smartphone application, and it can be only read within about a foot apart. So you have to be very close. So
Yeah.
now, because of this invisible ink tattoo that he wants to come up with, and it was even before coronavirus, but it's kind of coming back up to light.
Well,
Um,
that's why they're saying he's the one who started all of this because
right.
ironically, this literally goes into one of the threads that I found earlier that I didn't even know that you were doing this one. Um, because literally this person says, and okay, this is the weird thing. Um, I won't read the whole thing. I'll just read the last sentence of this. You better wake up before the end is with the virus and the RFID/mark of the beast injected into you. So basically, this invisible ink thing, and this
Right.
wasn't even
So go ahead.
who th- I've been hearing about this because China has their cell phones that connect to this, but it goes back to when you were originally being tested and having to talk about whether you just you being tested. I'm trying to get my train of thought. This goes back to you being tested and like whose business is it? You know what I mean? Like it's not anyone's business who you I don't know. I just don't like the idea of now having to have someone scan me. So I mean, but where does it stop? Like what illness is next? What thing do I have to let you know that I don't have or do have? You know what I mean? Like and now that's going to be marked on my body for all to read? Like
Well,
no.
no, not for everybody. It's going to be an invisible ink, and whatever the tattoo that's put on you, you have to have the device on your phone to read it, and you have to be. It says within a foot, so it's not like I
Yeah, but
can like aim up in the air and be getting at people unless you're like within like a foot, right?
but we
But
always know that can always be abused, and there's always going to be someone who's going to hack that program. There's going to be someone who's going to offer to alter it or offer to read it so you know what's really going on. Is someone hiding something? I mean, there's always a way that it can be abused.
right,
What else
right.
could be attached to that?
But so that's just one of the theories, right? So the next one is coming up, and they're saying, oh, okay, well, Bill Gates made the coronavirus so that way he can come up with an injection to or a vaccine to cure the coronavirus or to get people immune from it. But the reason that he wants to inject you with his vaccination is because he's going to inject a tiny microchip with the injection into your body to track the human race.
What did I just say that person wrote? And this was not even anything to do with Bill Gates. It was just to do with the coronavirus. This is did he said this?
This isn't what Bill Gates said. This is a conspiracy theory that stemmed
Oh,
from
okay.
his Reddit going out there. So by him just trying to open up the field because he has like these two like scientists, doctors, or whatever that he has a lot of foundations and different stuff. So he has these two people that are kind of side by side with him, um, just going to answer questions for random people coming up, and it just kind of stemmed into these theories. But I kind of thought it was kind of interesting why, you know, all this is coming into light. All this is, people are taking all this stuff. And there was even accounts of people calling his invisible ink tattoo, which they're saying can only last for 5 years. But I mean, maybe if he's trying to come up with an alternate
But if
method
it's a
that's going to last
tattoo, why would it
longer,
only last for 5 years?
I don't know. Maybe because the type of ink, because it's invisible. I don't know. Um,
Because they already have those UV tattoos where you can only see them under blue light. They're actually kinda cool
yeah.
if you Google them,
Uh,
but, I don't know, it's just so scary because then, they're also saying that because of this, now they wanna start tracking everyone so they can let you know that you've been in contact with someone. I don't need to know whether I've been in contact with someone who I don't even know or has been in my vicinity, and it's just too invasive.
yeah,
Because
I
it's
agree.
going to be used for that, and then it's going to be abused because it's going to be used for some other magical reason. It's going to be used because, oh, these people are suspicious, or we want to use it to fight crime, or it has so much, potential to be abused, and it's too invasive because we said this about social media and having to put our lives online and then it being there forever, and now we want to put tattoos on people that we can track people with and know and who they've been around with, and do we want
Well,
to really give up more of our privacy?
I think with like the tattoo, I think it's like an evolution and it's evolving, like what you're telling me right now, into the app on the phone to be able to track people. Where the tattoo itself is just going to be scanned by the device, and then it would be like your digital shot records and just kind of tell you like
Yeah.
what shots you've had, if you have this vaccination, if you've had the coronavirus vaccination or the COVID-19 vaccination, or if you have
But
antibodies to it.
but we've
Um,
already seen Facebook say that they wouldn't do things like this, like invade people's privacy and do this and that, and then they would do the exact opposite. So who's going to be in charge of this, and who's going to, be able to verify that they're not taking this information? Because obviously the information has to be digitized to be tattooed onto someone. So that
right.
could be hacked, and then you would have everyone in the world potentially's personal medical information.
But you know what? At the same time, though, there are a lot of systems that are already out there. And I'll say this, I just recently switched from one health insurance provider, which was Blue Cross or Blue Shield, and I switched
Yeah.
over to Kaiser Permanente. Now, I just did this in January, and I had switched over. I had never told them that I had inhaler, and which I was given by my doctor for like when I was doing running and different things, and it was a very, very light case of asthma. So when I went to fill another prescription with Kaiser, it was already on my medical record that I had this, inhaler. And I was like, where did this come from? So when I talked to my doctor about it, she said, oh, well, the systems link and your health information just kind of carries over. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So like medications or anything like that that you take, these two systems, they just kind of meshed, which I didn't realize they could do. And I
Yeah.
didn't know that that was a thing. So it's already out there. They already have these types of systems and these types of things.
Look,
So,
Fernando, that's only if you have medical insurance. If you don't
well,
have medical insurance, they can't do that.
right, but it's not necessarily just medical insurance. It's if you go to the doctor, it's put into a digital record. So it's
But
not
are they
necessarily just your
also so unless they
they're digital
I don't know if
records.
yeah, I don't think they do. Well, no, because here you have a card. It's literally on your card. So when you go to pay and all this stuff, like they
Mhm.
can pull up your file, but they can't really get everything. Because I've asked them that before too. Like, what can you see on my history, on my medical history whenever I go to the doctor here? And they do have something similar, but yeah, it's I still I feel comfortable with it being a doctor who can see it, and it's not something that's on my body,
Yeah.
but
But
still.
being on your body though, I think it's just going to be it would be like your scan code on your insurance card, or whatever card you're using when you go to the doctor, they scan your card to show that it's you. Um I kind of think it's going to be kind of the same thing, but it's just you're going to be your vaccination record. But now what other people are saying is that Bill Gates with this tattoo that he's wanting to put on people is they're like, oh well, he's the Antichrist. And so they were actually like talking to different people, and just kind of figuring different things and getting different like theories and stories. And there was this one person who I guess specializes in the last chapter of the Bible, and I think he's in Africa. And they were like talking to him, and from what he was saying in one of the stories that I was reading, is that he was saying that the people who do follow the devil and the people that do follow Christ, they both will be tattooed with some sort of a recognition. So, like whether it's the mark of the beast or the mark of Christ, you're going to have some sort of a mark. So it wouldn't just be, well, if you're following the devil, if you know the Antichrist, then you're going to have the mark of the beast and you're going to have this tattoo. Whether whoever you follow, you're going to be tattooed. So that's kind of how they were kind of debunking that theory and saying that conspiracy theory of Bill Gates being the Antichrist and wanting to put this invisible ink tattoo on people, it is false. But I wonder if
Well,
I still have, what's that?
it reminds me of, because right now everyone's worried about the second wave, because there's going to be a second wave coming once everything's opened up again. But we don't know how severe it could be or isn't going to be. But when you look at all this stuff, I don't know. These conspiracy theorists are getting pretty good at making me think twice though now, because sometimes I like, why do we have to lose something to save people? You know what I mean? Like, this
Yeah.
it wasn't
Well, what are you
possible
talking about
without
losing?
well, losing your privacy. Why do we
Oh,
constantly give away our privacy to supposedly help society in some way?
yeah.
It's
But
just it makes no sense. When you go out through history, that wasn't ever an issue of keeping your privacy, and now we're like, oh, no, no, no. In order for us to stop this global pandemic, we need to give up all of our privacy.
at the same time, I think a lot of stuff has changed since, say 1916, when polio was, a big issue back then, and when that was a
But
pandemic. I think that if they would
but
have had other options, if they would be
well,
able to do like that contact tracing, I think they probably, maybe the death toll would have been smaller, maybe the infected amount would have been smaller, you know.
well, ironically, I heard today from I was listening to another podcast, and there was a nurse. I think he said he was a nurse practitioner, and he was saying something about how the people who died with the, what was it, the Spanish flu.
Mhm.
He said the theory is that everyone who was going to die from it caught it and died from it. That there was no saving anyone. So all the people who were going to die from it died from it. And so that I wonder if they're thinking the same thing about this virus as well. Like, either you're going to die from it or you're not going to die from it. And so, like, and another podcast, I think this was on the New York Times podcast I was listening to, The Daily, and they were saying that, like, one of the theories was that maybe people would get some type of certification, like they were saying in Germany they wanted to do, to have some paper that said you were immune to it now because you had the antibodies, but then saying that maybe some jobs would require people to now have that certificate to go back to work. So then people would be losing their jobs, because if I can't interact with the public and I have to interact with the public for my job, then I lose this job to someone who has the certificate and immunity to the virus. So I mean,
Well, I
imagine, it's again, it's an invasion of privacy, and it's just like, it goes back to this whole conspiracy theory that's probably been around a lot longer than the coronavirus. So it gives validity to the argument.
right. And speaking of that, about the antibodies, I believe it's Italy who proposed the idea that they would allow people
Yeah,
who had the antibodies and who, were essentially in their eyes
yeah.
immune to getting the virus again, to restart their economy and to start going out into the public and to start doing different things. Whereas the people who haven't yet had the antibodies, or people who were elderly, or people who had compromised immune systems, or things like that, they didn't want them to go back out just yet. But so what, a person that might not have the antibodies yet, do you think that maybe they would go out, just to try to contract the virus, so that way they could hopefully, recover from it, that way they would have the antibodies and they could go back out into the public and not have to worry.
That was literally what the host of the show said. So this puts people at risk, because people literally would go out and get themselves infected, because if I'm going to lose my job, you lose your life essentially. I mean, if you I mean, literally, no, you do. A lot of people, they do end up taking their lives when they can't, pay their bills. They can't pay for their home. They're homeless. They have no food. People lose, the will to live. So Yeah, I mean, some people would take that risk. I mean, I
Yeah.
literally when he said that, I thought to myself, I was like, "Ooh, I mean, the job market is already hard. What if I did go and infect myself so I could go back to work? Because what do I do if I can't work? Like literally,
But now,
there's
on the
no."
contrary, this is something that we had previously discussed multiple times. I believe on our lives is on our live broadcasts. It's how do you actually know that just because you have these antibodies, you're not going to get reinfected? Because there have been multiple cases in South Korea and in China, and even here in the United States recently, very low amount of cases. I believe it was like five of people who had recovered from the coronavirus, but yet they got reinfected. Um, our original topic or theory in China was the false positive test, where the people thought they had coronavirus, tested for it, the results came back positive, where really they just had like a cold or something else like that. They then recovered and they thought, okay, well, now I'm immune. They went out in public and they contracted the virus and they tested again positive for it. So that was the first theory. But the second theory is that well, you might not be immune to it. What if you have these antibodies, but if the antibodies can't fight off the virus? Or three, what if the virus is already mutating? So people who were immune to COVID-19, well, what if the virus has since mutated, like our flu does every year, and these people are no longer immune to it, and what is it going to be, COVID-20? But the person then gets reinfected or infected with this new mutated disease. So there's a lot to
I
think
don't
about,
know.
and it can be kind of scary to wrap
Well,
my head around.
in this podcast, they said that that this could possibly be going on for 4 years. But then, I mean, the outlook wasn't so bad though, because he said like this after the last pandemic. I mean, he was really clear in the way he explained it because he said we had World War I, then we had the pandemic, Spanish flu, and then they had the Roaring Twenties. I mean, like we're literally there right now. You know what I mean? It's like we're having the this, and then we're in 2020 now. So if this goes on for 4 years, I mean, essentially, I guess we'll have our
Yeah.
Roaring Twenties with another crash. But I mean, it's just oh. But I mean, these can that's it's a I don't know. I guess it's not a conspiracy theory if it's already been proposed.
What is that now?
The marks, the tattoos.
Oh, yeah, but it's just kind of his
Because
idea. It actually
I
hasn't
know,
been like
but
thrown
it's
out there into the works or anything like that. But I
but
think that the
but
conspiracy
how
theory
long ago?
part is
But
what's that?
that conspiracy theory is very old, though. It's not a new one that just was thought up during this pandemic. It was thought up a long, long time ago.
For Bill
So,
Gates and its
no, just the
invisible ink,
whole
or which
the
the
the the the
Antichrist?
tattoo. Yeah. Well, I don't know
Oh,
anything about
well,
the
I believe
Antichrist, but,
his
like, the
invisible ink
tattoo on the mark.
tattoo, I think it was proposed, I want to say within like the last 5 years. I believe that's like the length for his, um,
Yeah,
and
but
his
still.
ideas for it. But do you know who Roger Stone is?
Yes.
So Roger Stone is he's like a politician pretty much. He was an advisor to Trump. He's now a felon, and it was due to the Mueller report and the special counsel investigations. He was convicted on 7 counts, including witness tampering and lying to investigators. But Roger Stone,
Lobbyist.
yes, he actually this was a quote or a headline on the New York Post. Roger Stone says Bill Gates may have created the coronavirus to microchip people, and that was a headline on the New York Post. And the Post didn't even make an attempt to challenge Stone's false statement. But let me read that
Wait,
again. Bill Gates,
when did he make
what's that?
this? When did he make this statement?
Recently, recently, um, Bill Gates may have created coronavirus to microchip people. And so, I mean, like, hello, this is like a big person. Like, this is a big name. Like, a lot of people might not know who Roger Stone is or what he's done, but I mean, that I'm going to say it's almost a household name. Like, if I were to say Roger Stone in a room of 5 people, they're going to say, I've heard that name before. They might not know who he
Huge
is,
scale.
but I mean, he's been all over the news.
Well, I'm sure they
So
know
at
who
some
he
time
is.
or another, what's that?
I'm sure he was all over the news for a very long time, so I'm sure they know who he is.
Yeah. So I'm sure they would have had to have heard that name at some point. But
Yeah.
while we're talking about vaccinations and getting injections, so they're saying that if they do come up with a coronavirus vaccine, they're saying that it's probably going to be 12 months to I'm sorry, a year to 18 months out. So 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
If when that time
You
comes, so say they have something available in a year.
hold on. You should listen to this podcast, The Daily, on that episode because they said that the fastest, because this cut ties into your polio intro, the fastest the U.S. government or any government has ever made a vaccine that was tested and worked was 4 years.
Well, polio, for example, polio
Yeah, it was the
came
polio vaccine. 4 years.
right 8 years. Polio was
Oh, he said it was
first.
4.
Oh, maybe they came up with it within 4 years, but polio was discovered in 1908, and then their pandemic hit 8 years later, where it just exploded. But maybe it was 4 years from when they first started working on it. But still, either way, just think that disease was around for so many years, you know, 50 years before it was even eradicated. And sorry, 50 years before they even, started, their mass vaccinations. So if it was about 1908 and about 1988 is when it started to, slump. So actually 80 years before that disease started to get wiped out.
Hmm.
But, think about that now. So if they were to come up with a vaccine and they're to say, hey, Freddie, do you want this coronavirus shot? Could you take it?
Nope.
I
Nope.
think it's going to
Nope.
need
Nope.
a little more time. So they're saying 4 years because for testing or what?
Oh no, that's what they said. That was one of the fastest was 4 years for the polio vaccine. But I'm trying to look on it. Where is that source? But I'm not finding it. I didn't think to look of it earlier. Look for it earlier. But oof, I don't know. Would you take the vaccine?
Oh, that's so scary. Like, I don't know. Like, well, I would want to know a little more about
Let's let the. Oh,
mutations of the virus. What's that?
I was gonna say. I wonder at like I keep seeing those things like those anti-vaxxers. Now you need to commit to your commit to your
Are you
idea of not
talking
taking
the
this
anti-vaxxers
vaccine.
that want the shots?
Well, that's what people are saying. Like the anti-vaxxers should stick to their commitment of no vaccines and not take the vaccine for this one as well.
Right, right. Because have you heard those stories about the anti-vaxxers that are saying, yes, when the shot's available, we're going to get it?
No, really?
Yeah. So there are anti-vaxxers. I didn't actually read this in an article. I just saw it like on some like news show on YouTube. But yeah, so there are anti-vaxxers who, are totally against shots, don't want any shots, but they see everything that's happening and they see all the people getting infected and they see all these deaths. And so they want the shot for them and their children when it becomes available.
Yeah,
And
but like they see all the other things that kill children as well that they don't want a vaccine for.
right, but I think that probably because it's everyone else is vaccinated for it, so it's not something that's so present and everywhere. And now that coronavirus is everywhere, they're just worried about it. So, hang on,
Yeah.
I'm reading through this was. I'm just looking for a different article that I had. Um, but yeah, so I think that I would want to one find out like the mutation and find out how many different strains of this virus are there really, um, and if you can get reinfected. Because if there's only the one strain, it's not fast mutating, and I'm not going to be able to get it again. Well, I'm not going to get the shot for it. But if at the same
I don't know.
time, what's that?
Have you seen the new thing, the Corona toes, where the
Corona
people's
toes.
feet? Yeah, it
What
was like
happened?
where people are getting bruises and different things, rashes and different things are happening to their feet and toes when they have the virus.
No.
And it seems like this is not happening anywhere else. What do you do? You're shaking your toes now,
Yes.
but you don't have it anymore. You should have checked it when you had it.
I'm looking. My toes look the same. They haven't changed.
Well, they said that one of the symptoms too was it was like a fake frostbite almost.
Interesting. A fake
Yeah.
frostbite.
Yeah, well, that's what she said. She said it was like a fake frostbite. It was like the toes would go black.
That's
know,
kind of
like-
scary. Like that just
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of like a poor circulation or something. I wonder if coronavirus is now affecting your blood circulation. So you guys, tell us in the comments below. Let us know, would you get the vaccination if it was available next week? Why or why not? And what do you think about Bill Gates injecting us with microchips to track the human population? Let us know about that
Or
too.
tattoos.
Or tattoos. And if you guys like our show, we would love it if you'd subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you like today's broadcast. If you didn't like it, I mean, it's fine. You can give us a thumbs down. Let us know what you think. But thanks for joining us today, you guys. Another episode of Reddit on Reddit on the Fernando and Freddy Show.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
From the Fernando and Freddy Show.
Why isn't my name first?